Hello everyone. Welcome to the third video in my series. And this time we are going to be looking at something called precious time. Because if you think about it, all the time that we've had during these past 8 months, in a lot of ways, it can be very precious, just like all time is precious. But I've listened to a lot of people talk, and I've listened to a lot of celebrities, and there was this one that I listened to, I don't even remember who it was, but I remember she said that we need to take, all this time that we've been in this pandemic, and that a lot of us have been stuck at home, like me, is that we need to take advantage of it because we may never have anything like this again. I'm trying to adjust this. I feel like it's kind of a weird lighting angle, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, because, like when this first started, they said that it would probably be about 2 weeks. And then they extended it. And then they extended it again. And some people have even been counting the number of days. And as of today, I mean, my daily place that I go to every day has been closed for 254 days. But I feel like it's, like days have turned into weeks, have turned into months. But, I've looked at other time. I mean, all time is precious, really. But there are certain times that we have in our lives that are more precious than others. And one thing that one period of time that I've actually been thinking about lately is the last year or so that my mother was alive. So it was basically like 2017 into 2018. She died in May of 2018. But see, of course, I didn't necessarily know that was going to be her last year. And so anything that happened during that time, it reminds me of, that time. And the reason why it was very precious was because it was, it was the last moments that my mother was still here. And I still wish she was. Like, I remember in the summer of 2017, I actually joined a bowling league, which was actually really fun. And then in September of 2017, well, this is interesting. A friend of mine, a childhood friend of mine that I went to middle school with, passed away suddenly. I guess she was like hit by a train or something. I don't want to go into all the details, but I remember it actually made me really sad because, see, I was friends with her mostly in like 8th grade, which was another time in my life that was very precious. That 8th grade was literally one of the best years of my life because it was a time that a lot of people didn't take school or even life very seriously and basically acted like the future was never gonna come. the good old days. And then a few months after that, my grandfather died. That's my grandfather on my father's side. And he lived a good long life. He was 89 years old. And so, yeah, I mean, I thought that losing my friend was hard. And then I thought losing my grandfather was hard. But, like, those weren't people that I saw, like, every day, like my mom. And it wasn't until, like, about February or, like, early March that it was clear that she wasn't doing well. And in some ways, like this pandemic, there was a lot of uncertainty. I mean, my mother had cancer for 2 years. And the uncertainty was that we weren't sure how well it was going to go. And of course, we always prayed for the best. But then we always had to prepare for the worst. And then I guess the worst happened. I remember March and April of that year, 2018, were really hard. And then I remember one night in late April, my dad came up to me and he said, "Jeff, your mother is fading very fast." And I was like, what does that mean? And he said, "I think she's gonna die pretty soon." And then I like didn't want to believe it, and so he told me that I might want to just tell her that I love her. And then but from what he said, it sounded like things are pretty serious. So I was like, "Oh, should we call for help?" And then he was like, "She's on hospice, we're gonna let her go." And I could barely even take it. I was sad, I was scared, but he had mentioned that she had been through so much in the last 2 years, and she was just so tired from all the chemotherapy she did and all the treatment that she did. And they decided that it would be best to let her go. But my dad said that he would take good care of me, and my mother taught him how. And from the way that he said it seemed like she was gonna die later, that she was gonna die that night, and that those might actually be her final hours. But then she made it through the night and then into the next day. And then she actually sort of came back, and she was around for another couple weeks. But then I remember about a week later, our closest friends, the Abergs, stopped by. Basically just, and this was a very poignant moment. They basically just wanted to tell her that they loved her, and I guess they gave her a card, and they basically just talked about all the memories that they've had with her. And after they read her that card, we all broke out into huge tears, knowing that she was gonna die pretty soon, and that it was gonna be a really big hole when she left us. And even after 2.5 years, it still is. So then, the following Saturday, which was actually the day before Mother's Day, my dad said, "So your mother's probably gonna die in a few hours." And so I got her a Mother's Day card, and I don't exactly remember exactly what it said, but I basically just told her that, from the very start, that she had always been there for me from the very start, and that she was the best mother that anyone could ever imagine, from singing me lullabies to helping me through college. And I said, I'm always gonna love you to the moon and back. Because I guess that's actually something that she used to say to me when I was a little kid. But she got through that day, and I think she even decided that she just could not die on Mother's Day. And so she made it through the night, and she was alive on Mother's Day. But I mean, she wasn't like functioning or even talking or anything, but she was still here. And I guess I had to be thankful that it was Mother's Day and my mother was alive. But then, at about 4 o'clock in the morning, the day after Mother's Day, my dad knocked on my door. And he was like, Jeff. But of course, as soon as he knocked on my door, I knew exactly what happened. And I opened the door, and he said, your mom has died. And then we hugged crying. And I was like, yeah, unbelievable. Of course, it was like the worst day of my whole life. What do you expect? Yeah. But as sad as it is that she's gone, I am very thankful for the 33 years that I had with my mother. Because, actually just, I think like last month, somebody that I went to high school with died, who I guess is a mother of like 3 little kids. And I feel so bad for her poor kids. And I don't mean for anyone to take this the wrong way, but that actually made me very thankful for all the years that I had with my mother, because of course my mother is always gonna hold a special place in my heart. And she's gonna be with me in spirit forever, because she's the one who shaped me into the person that I am today. And when this whole pandemic is over and we can go back to our normal lives, but I mean, do you even remember what your normal lives were before the pandemic? And it's like, I wonder if anyone is actually going to miss this time. I mean, I certainly won't. But I know that some others will, because I do know that a lot of families, live very busy lives. And I know that I've said in a previous video that I've often had trouble getting along with my dad. And I think part of the reason for that is that, like when I was a really little kid and for much of my childhood life, he was barely even around. He was like a workaholic. And there were certain things that me and my dad never did together. It was always my mom. And like it was pretty much always my mom that I went to for advice about anything. I never went to my dad for anything. And then when I was 6 years old, my father actually moved out because I guess he and my mother weren't getting along, but sometimes I actually think that the reason why my parents split up was actually because of me, and they couldn't really agree with how to deal with me, because they definitely had different ways of dealing with me. And I think part of the problem is that, my mother always enabled me. And she pretty much let me get away with anything and never pushed me to do anything because she didn't want to deal with the fussing. And my dad always tried telling her that that wasn't a good idea, but she didn't listen because she didn't want to deal with the fussing. And now look where I am today. And so for 8 years, my dad didn't even live with us, so he was hardly ever around. But then in 8th grade, he actually moved back in with us. So it was like he moved out when I was 6 years old and he didn't live with us for 8 years. So it's like I barely even remembered him living with us. And when I heard that he was gonna be living with us again, that was a big change. Because it was like I wasn't sure I wanted this guy here. And so we talked about it. And I adjusted to it. But it's very different. And like no matter who it is, it's very different having 2 people live in the house than having 3 people live in the house. Yeah. So, and I know that, obviously Thanksgiving is coming up in a couple of days. And it's going to be very different this year, I can tell you that. And so this is an appropriate time, to think about things that we're thankful for this year, which can be very hard now because of the pandemic. We're living in such a trying time. Speaking of time, I think we're almost out of time for this video, because I don't want it to be too long. I mean, we're already at 18 minutes. And I'm not sure how many more videos I'll be doing in this series. I know that I've said that before, but if I think about a new topic that I think we need to discuss, I'll bring it up. But yeah, okay, I think that's about all I have to say. So, and thank you for, and I would like to, well, actually, you know what? I actually did this with my first video, and I should have done this with my other videos as well, and I thought about doing it, but now that I think of it, I would like to end this video with a song. If I can position the phone correctly. I think this will be good. Okay, and the song that I would like to do is a song called Only Time by Enya.